If you're PCSing to Northern Virginia, let me say this right up front. This is not just another move. This is one of those assignments where the decisions that you make in the next 30 to 60 days can quietly impact your daily life, your finances, and your flexibility for years. And I have seen that play out again and again. The real estate office is located about 5 miles from the Pentagon. So this isn't theoretical for me. This is my backyard. These are the conversations I'm having every week with military families just like you. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through Northern Virginia the way that I do with my actual clients, not the polished version, the real version. One of my earliest deals in real estate, and I'll never forget this, I was representing a retiring Army 3-star general. The seller of the house was a retiring Navy admiral. And there we are, sitting at the settlement table, and within minutes, they start talking with each other. And it's like a completely different language. Acronyms are flying, references, inside knowledge, and I'm sitting there thinking, it's like I need subtitles for this conversation. But what struck me wasn't just the jargon, it was how structured, precise, and intentional their thinking was. And that was the moment that I realized, if you're going to work with military clients, you need to understand not just real estate, but how they approach decisions. Because PCS moves are not casual, they're strategic, they're time sensitive, and they come with real pressure. Now, layer that mindset onto Northern Virginia, and this is where things get serious. Because this is not just a suburban market outside of Washington, D.C. This is one of the most concentrated hubs of military leadership, intelligence agencies, federal government, and defense contracting. You've got the Pentagon, Department of Homeland Security, Coast Guard headquarters, Army National Guard Readiness Center, all within this ecosystem. And what that creates is a market that is highly competitive, fast-moving, and very unforgiving if you don't understand it, but also incredibly stable, which is why, if you play this right, this PCS to Northern Virginia can actually become a great financial advantage. Before we even talk about houses, we need to talk about where you're actually stationed. Because in Northern Virginia, your base isn't just your workplace. It's the anchor point that determines your commute, your daily rhythm, your weekends, and honestly, your overall quality of life. And I've seen people get this right. And I've seen people underestimate it and feel it every single day. So let's walk through the major ones, not just what they are, but what life around them actually looks like. Fort Belvoir is one of the largest and most important Army installations in the entire region. It stretches across thousands of acres along the Potomac River and includes operational units, administrative commands, medical facilities, and a large residential community. What makes Belvoir unique is that it gives you options. You're not locked into just one type of lifestyle. Most of my clients who get stationed here end up looking at Springfield with its established neighborhoods, strong schools, and classic suburban feel. Lorton with newer construction, more space, and slightly quieter. Or the south part of Alexandria, closer to DC and a bit more character and walkability. This is where people often land and say, okay, this feels manageable. You could get a townhouse with some breathing room, a single family home without going too far out, and access to major roads like I-95, Route 1, and the Beltway. But here's the key. You still need to think carefully about your exact commute, because even within 10 to 15 miles, traffic patterns here in Northern Virginia matter. If you're going to the Pentagon, you are at the center of everything. The Pentagon itself, as you know, is massive, over 6 million square feet, and employs tens of thousands of people between military and civilian personnel. But what matters for you is what surrounds it. You're right next to Arlington, Pentagon City, Crystal City, National Landing, and Roslyn. This is highly urban, extremely walkable, packed with restaurants, gyms, coffee shops, filled with young professionals, government staff, and military leadership. You can live in a high-rise and walk to dinner. or hop on the metro and be in DC in just minutes. But here's the trade-off. Space is limited, prices are high, and competition is intense. This is where I often tell clients, you're not just buying a home, you're buying time. Because being 10 minutes from work here versus 45 minutes, that is life-changing. And I'll tell you in a minute about a client who chose proximity over size and said it was one of the best decisions he made during his entire PCS. Marine Corps-based Quantico is a completely different experience. This is a major Marine Corps installation, over 55,000 acres. It's not just a base, it's almost like its own world. It includes training facilities, the FBI Academy, Officer Candidate School, and extensive natural land and restricted areas. And because of where it sits, south of the main Northern Virginia corridor, everything changes. You get more house for your money, newer construction, larger lots, and more suburban or even a semi-rural feel. Most people here look in Woodbridge, Stafford, and Dumfries. And here's the reality, and I say this very directly to clients. If your life is centered around Quantico, this can be a fantastic setup. However, if your life pulls you north to DC, Arlington, or beyond, that commute can become a real factor. This is one of the biggest decision points that I help military clients think through. Joint Base Myer-Henderson Hall is one of the most uniquely located installations in the entire country. It sits right next to Arlington National Cemetery and directly across the river from Washington, D.C. This is not a sprawling base like Quantico. It's smaller and more integrated into the urban environment. And that means you're right there, minutes to DC, minutes to the Pentagon, in the heart of Arlington, Virginia. Housing around here is competitive, expensive, and highly desirable. This is where proximity is everything. You're not buying size here, you're buying access. And this is something that a lot of people miss. Not everyone is going to a traditional base. You may be assigned to or working at Coast Guard headquarters, Department of Homeland Security, Army National Guard Readiness Center right next to Arlington in the Pentagon corridor, Joint Base Anacostia Bowling, Fort McNair in DC. These assignments often blur the lines between DC and Northern Virginia, and they require a slightly different strategy when choosing where to live. So, once you understand where you're going to be based, now we can talk about the thing that will impact your life even more than your house, your commute. Because in Northern Virginia, distance and time are two very different things. Let's talk about one of the things that people underestimate the most, your commute. I had a client, Army officer, sharp, thoughtful guy. He initially wanted the biggest house possible, and on paper, that idea looked great. But I asked him, have you done this drive at 7:30 in the morning? And he hadn't. So we did. And what looked like 30 minutes turned into over an hour each way. And that was the turning point. He pivoted, bought something smaller and closer in. And later he told me that decision gave me my life back. That's what we're talking about here. Not just square footage, your time, your energy, your daily rhythm. Let's talk about cost, but in a way that actually helps you think about it. Because this is not just numbers, it's trade-offs. In Arlington, you're paying for access, time, flexibility. In Springfield or Lorton, you're getting more space, more calm, and slightly better value. And further out, you get even more house, but you give up proximity. And there's no universal right answer, only the right answer for your life. The VA loan is one of the best benefits available out there. And here's the part that most people won't say clearly. In this market, it's not just about having a VA loan, it's about how it's positioned. Because I've seen VA buyers win in multiple offer situations. And I've also seen them lose. And the difference is rarely the loan. It's the lender, the structure, and the communication. This is why I work with loan officers who are deeply experienced in VA, not just familiar with it. Because when we present an offer, we're not just submitting paperwork, we're building confidence. You're going to hear from people, you should always buy. Well, that's not true. Sometimes renting could be the smart move. Short assignment, uncertainty, need flexibility, then rent. And I will tell clients that, even when it costs me business. Because the goal isn't one deal, it's long-term trust. If you're PCSing to Northern Virginia, you're stepping into a real estate market that rewards people who understand it and punishes people who don't. But if you take the time to understand the bases, the commutes, the trade-offs, and the financing, you don't just survive this move, you use it to position yourself better, financially, logistically, personally. If you want help thinking this through, even if you're months away from your move, reach out, because the earlier we talk, the better decisions you will make.